हरि ओम। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all to session 17 of Atma Bodha. Friends, we have spent 16 sessions to cover the entire 68 verses of Atma Bodha. Next 4 sessions are devoted for revision of all 68 verses of this great text. Today, we are having the first of those 4 sessions. These 4 sessions are further subdivided into 2 parts each. So, you will have 2 parts in each session based on the topic, making it 8 segments in all. Today, we are taking up the initial 2 topics. The first one is knowledge of the self alone liberates man, which is covered in verses from 1 to 5. This part will be handled by Dr. Sundar and his team comprising of Dr. Netra, Srimati Neeta, and Srimati Vani Bhaskar. The second topic is material equipments, upadhis, superimposed world on Brahman, which is explained in verses 6 to 15. Dr. Anupama and her team comprising of Srimati Indumati, Srimati Sukanya, and Dr. Rekha Kumar will deal with this topic. Our Reverend Guru, Dr. Hegde sir, will moderate the session as always and bring in finer points of these topics. I request Dr. Hegde sir to kindly give a brief introduction to the day's session. Over to you, sir.
सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. As mentioned by Shri Venkatesh Prasad, this will be 4 classes on the revision of this wonderful text, Atma Bodha. In each class, we will have 2 moderators, and this whole topic of Atma Bodha is divided into these 8 topics that have been listed today. There is one thing I want all of us students of Atma Bodha, to keep this in mind all the time, whenever we are studying Atma Bodha or Vedanta. The question right now for all of us is, what is that one cause of all the problems in our life? I want you to think for a moment and find out what is that single cause of all the problems in our life. So the answer is Ajnanena tu avritam jnanam muhyanti jantavaha. Shri Krishna, when the Bhagavad Gita says there is one cause of all our problems, and that is we are not sure or we are not convinced of who we are. We think I am this body, I am this limited Dr. Timappa Hegde who has got all the issues in life, and therefore I have all these kinds of problems in our life. The more we are into Atma Bodha and Vedanta, we realize one thing is very certain, and this should be our Nishtha: I am someone other than the body. And if I am not this body, then who am I? I am Atma Brahma. And if this knowledge of Atma Bodha is very clear, then what do we have to do? We have to play our roles very sincerely. All of us have important roles to play. We cannot neglect any of the roles that we have in our life. And if you take them casually, we are in for trouble. And therefore, whatever role that we have, if we can play them sincerely, but on the background, Shruti is the Mahavakya. I am Atma Brahma. This is Atma Bodha. If this Atma Bodha, this knowledge of my true nature is clear in all our transactions, then what happens? All of us have to discuss this topic once again. How do we do it? Nandati, Nandati, Nandateva. We are here to enjoy our life. We are here to play our roles very sincerely and to bring in joy in our life and to transmit joy in every way that is possible. With this background, I would like to hand over to Dr. Sundar. Dr. Sundar, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So, having concluded a verse by verse study of this text, we have now reached the point where we are revising this text. In this slide, I have pictorially depicted what Timappa sir has already shown, that there are 8 broad topics in this text of Atma Bodha, which shall be systematically covered in these 4 classes, 2 on each day, 2 of which are to be done today. For a better pictorial representation to understand, we can see in this slide, as Pujya Swami Paramarthananda ji has categorized the topics in this text. First of all, so this is a small text of 68 verses, and we are in the Anushtup Chandas, the same meter which the Bhagavad Gita verses predominantly are. So they can be chanted to a similar tune. And another nice thing about this text is, although Vedanta might seem abstract for many of us, this text is like a picture book. For most of the verses, we see Adi Shankaracharya bringing in a comparison, an example, a drishtanta, most often from our day-to-day life, to illustrate a Vedantic point. So it is almost like a Vedantic atlas. This text falls under the category of Prakarana Grantha, which separates it from Mula Grantha, which are the Upanishads, where the core concept of Vedanta lies. Prakarana Granthas themselves, as Swamiji explains, can be basic, to be studied before visiting Upanishads, and advanced, which are studied after Upanishads. When we say basic, it's still, the content is Vedanta, but it is presented in a simple manner, avoiding elaborate arguments. These texts are complete in themselves and give the total message of Vedanta. To this category belongs this text of Atma Bodha, as well as the other popular text, Tattva Bodha. The text starts with first 5 verses, which we can look at as an introduction to the text itself. The first verse is almost like a Mangalacharana, and it sets the prerequisite qualifications, as we shall see. After this introduction, the text interestingly moves to 2 broad areas. If we take the Mahavakya Tattvam Asi, what is the meaning of the word Tat? What is Tat Padartha Vichara? What is Tat Pada Vachyartha, or the superficial meaning of Tat or Ishvara at a samasti level? What is the Lakshartha of that Tat Pada or the Tat word? Then it deals with another broad area, which is Tvam Padartha Vichara. What is the superficial meaning of the word Tvam, or you, which is Vachyartha? What is the deeper Lakshartha of the word Tvam, Tvam Pada? In this manner, at the level of Samashti, that is macrocosm, what is God and what is the true essence of God is analyzed. And similarly, at the level of Vyasti, or microcosm, or individual level, who is Jiva? What is the true essence of Jiva? These are analyzed in large portions of the text, starting from the 6th to the 29th verse. And the essence then, as in any Vedantic text, is seen that the essence of the Vyasti and Samasti are the same. And therefore, the Asi part of the Mahavakya Tattvamasi is brought about. So in the verses 30 to 39, that Jiva Brahma Aikyam is brought about. Then there is description of how to realize this Aikyam through Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. So this entire exercise is completed by about 39th verse. And a large number of verses thereafter dwell in the celebration of this identity of oneness with everything in this universe. What is Jivan Mukti? How this person dwells in his life? What is Videha Mukti? What is Brahma Swarupam? What is Jnana Nishtha? These are all the topics covered in that last portion. And it ends with a Falashruti. So this is the overall bird's eye view covering the 8 topics which Sir put up in the earlier slide. In this next slide, this is how Pujya Swamiji starts his talks and transcripts of this text. So the text title itself has 2 words, Atma and Bodha. What is Atma? What is Bodha? The essence of each one of us that keeps us alive is Atma. And Swamiji derives the meaning of Atma from 4 roots in Sanskrit to say that Atma is that which is all-pervading, yad sarvam apnoti. Atma is the essence into which everything resolves. Just how the wave resolves into water, the wood into furniture into wood, the pots into clay, in the same manner, everything that is manifest and unmanifest resolves into Atma, yad adatte. Then the third root is yad atti. So that means that which is of the nature of consciousness itself, awareness itself. That is Atma or Chit, which we know otherwise. And the fourth root derivative in Sanskrit is Yad Satatamasti, Yad Sadaasti, or the existence principle or the Sat. So therefore, Atma has 4 roots from which its meaning can be derived, that which is all-pervading, that essence into which everything resolves, Chit or the consciousness or the awareing principle, and the existence principle. And Bodha simply refers to knowledge. Now you can notice here that Swamiji draws this interesting comparison to say that one of the meanings of Atma is awareness or knowledge, and the meaning of Bodha is also knowledge. So Atma Bodha therefore would mean knowledge, knowledge. So why is it that the meaning is repeated twice? Does both have the same meaning? When you say Atma is knowledge and Bodha is also knowledge, is there any difference? And then Swamiji gives this detailed explanation that Atma as awareness, as consciousness, as knowledge is Swarupa Jnanam, whereas Bodha refers to Vritti Jnanam. 2 new terms for us. What is this Swarupa Jnanam and what is Vritti Jnanam? So to put it simply, the constant sense of awareness each one of us have all the time is Swarupa Jnanam. Whereas when any particular object comes in our field of knowledge, that knowledge is Vritti Jnanam. Swamiji more elaborately classifies and discusses Swarupa Jnanam and Vritti Jnanam on 4 subheadings. One is Swarupa Jnanam is natural in the sense that it is constantly, unchangingly present. Whereas Vritti Jnanam is not so natural in the sense that it is not all the time there. It comes and goes, and therefore it is changing. The second distinction Swamiji makes is that Swarupa Jnanam is objectless. It is there all the time in the background. Therefore, it is formless. Whereas Vritti Jnanam is objective. Therefore, it is formed. When I have Vritti Jnanam of a cup, it is of the form of a cup. If it is a pen, if it is of the form of a pen, whereas Swarupa Jnanam is formless and objectless. Fourth important distinction is Swarupa Jnanam does not require the operation of senses or the mind. I am aware of the dream state when the gross body is not available. I am also aware of the deep sleep state when the mind is not available. So Swarupa Jnanam does not require any of the other Sthula or Sukshma Sharira components. It's always there. Whereas Vritti Jnanam obviously requires the senses from Sthula Sharira. It requires the mind from the Sukshma Sharira. So in this manner, Swamiji makes a distinction between Atma as knowledge, as Swarupa Jnanam, Ajanya Jnanam, which is birthless, it is always there, and Bodha as knowledge, but as Vritti Jnanam, specific to different objects. Now, why is all this elaborate discussion that Swamiji is making? we all have this Svarupa Jnanam, or this awareing principle or consciousness, which is Atman, Brahman, the core thing in Vedanta itself. But I am not liberated. Just having this doesn't liberate anybody. Merely having Swarupa Jnanam keeps me alive, makes me do all the activities, but doesn't give me that knowledge that I am Brahman. Whereas Vritti Jnanam, in the form of knowledge which is brought in through this text, or the Gita, or the Upanishad, or any other Vedantic text, shows to each one of us that that constantly present awareing principle is the fabric of this universe. It is all pervading. It is eternal. It is Purnaha. It does not have inadequacies of whatsoever form. That is our true nature. That knowledge is brought in by this text or Bodha of the Atma Bodha text. Now, what is the purpose? Next slides. What is the purpose of a text like Atma Bodha or any other Vedantic text? So, as this 7th chapter shloka shows, Sarva Bhutani Sammoha Sarge Yanti. At the time of birth itself, everybody is clueless about one's true nature. Ignorance of divinity, which is there within all of us, is there from the time of birth itself. Because of this, which is what avidya is, because of the sense of feeling of incompleteness, apurnatvam, each one of us starts looking for completion from outside of me. Situations, places, things, objects. So that is kama. And then that moves on to karma to acquire. And when I do that, I accumulate punya, papa. That leads to janma. This is the circle of samsara. As Pujya Swami Chinmayananda ji put it, non-appreciation, non-apprehension of the truth leads to misapprehension that the truth is something else. And the text like Atma Bodha, by showing us our true nature, makes all untruths disappear. Another common phrase that we might see in the introduction itself is that this divinity within ourselves is not something which is to be gained by doing any particular sadhana, because it is already there within me. It is not apraptasya prapti. It is not something that I have to gain which I don't have. It is praptasya prapti. It is, I already have it. I just need to remove the notion that I don't have. So therefore, karma has nothing to do with this. Jnanam alone is needed. That notion has to go. That notion of ignorance has to go. However, this jnanam, one cannot directly leap into jnana yoga. There are certain prerequisite steps that prepares one to take through the journey of jnana yoga. So therefore, the first shloka, first verse of this text deals with the prerequisites which are needed to undertake this journey of jnana yoga through the text of Atma Bodha. And this verse will be presented by Dr. Netra. And subsequently, after having shown what are the prerequisites needed for Jnanam, Adi Shankaracharya dwells to stay, although the prerequisites are important, Jnanam is the one single pathway for moksha purushartha, and those shlokas will be elaborated by Nita Madam. And after that, in the introduction, we see what is this blessed Jnanam, what is the nature of that Jnanam. That will be explained by Vani Madam. With this introduction, I hand over to Dr. Netra. Dr. Netra, please.
Namaste, Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. As informed earlier, Atma Bodha is a Prakarana Granthi done before the teaching of Upanishads, so that we understand the Vedanta better. The uniqueness of this is that each verse is explained by a metaphor or by giving an example or a story for better understanding. So all of us all have Atma, the Swarupa Jnanam. So in spite of Swarupa Jnanam being there, we suffer from the ignorance of the self. So we've all been hearing that we have the Atma inside us. So we are samsaris, bound to the worldly affairs. From this, we come to know that liberation. It does not give happiness. So we need to possess the knowledge of the Swarupa Jnanam. We require some other Jnanam, that is the knowledge about oneself, about our Swarupam. Just like how it has been explained here. Aham Swarupa Chaitanyam Asmi, Aham Atma Asmi, Aham Sarva Vyapi Asmi, Aham Sarvasya Adat Asmi, Aham Sarvasya Atta Asmi, Aham Sarvada Asmi. Therefore, when Shankaracharya calls it as Atma Bodha, the word Atma refers to Swarupa Jnanam and Bodha refers to Vritti Jnanam about the Atma. So the main purpose, as already mentioned, of this teaching is to remove the fundamental disease of ignorant. We are ignorant of oneself, that we are complete. We always miss something in our life. Missing is a sign of apurnatvam. And this alone later becomes kama, which unfulfilled becomes krodha, and fulfilled becomes lobha. So basically, ignorance is the cause of all the problems. And that can be removed by only one medication, that is Atma Jnana. So before we gain Atma Jnana, all of us require some preparation, which is called as Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. And Shankaracharya ji begins with these preparatory steps, which is explained in the first verse. So coming to the verse, Tapobhi Kshina Papyanam Santanam Vitaraginam Mumukshunam Apeksha Ayam Atma Bodha Vidiyate. This verse means I am composing this Atma Bodha, the treatise on the self-knowledge, for those who have purified themselves by austerities, who are peaceful in heart, free from cravings and desirous of liberation. So coming to the next slide. Shankaracharya ji talks about the preparations necessary for the study, which has been described already in Tattva Bodha as Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, the fourfold qualification. The first one is Vivekaha. That means I should have a clear understanding what I want, what I don't need. What I want is Purnatvam, what I don't want is Apurnatvam. Then the second qualification is Vairagyam, which is indicated as Vitaragi. Vitaragi refers to a person, and Vairagyam, disattachment, refers to the qualification. Turning away from Apurna is Vairagyam. Turning towards Purna is Mumukshatvam. The third qualification is Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, which is indicated by the word Shantanam. Shantaha means the one who has got Samaha, Mano Nigraha, mind control, Damaha, sense control, Uparatihi, quietude of the mind, Titikshati, which means equanimity in Sukha and Dukkha. Next is Shraddha, faith in Guru scriptures, Samadhanam, Chitta Ekagrata, concentration of the mind. So these six together is called Samadhi Shatka Sampatti. Then comes the fourth and final qualification of the student, which is called Mumukshu. And if all these four qualifications are there, it is called as Adhikari. So Adhikari is a person who has all the fourfold Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti qualification. In the next slide, how do we gain this Adhikaritvam? Tapobhi Kshina Papana. These qualifications are attained by Tapaha. Tapaha indicates all kind of sadhanas, karma yoga, upasana, vrata, pilgrimage. So these tapaha, how do they give qualification? It is not direct. It removes all the papa what we have accumulated. And when this papa is removed, Vedantic qualifications come. Therefore, Punyam and Papam in this context is based on what promotes moksha and what obstructs moksha. And therefore, as a papam goes away by tapas, a person becomes adhikari, and this adhikari is qualified for the study of this text. And the prayojanam, the benefit is, the immediate benefit is that I study Atma Bodha, we'll get self-knowledge. And this self-knowledge is the immediate cause of liberation, and ultimate prayojana is moksha. So in the next slide, coming to the conclusions of this verse, Atma, the Swarupa Jnanam, is there in all of us. In spite of this, we suffer from the ignorance of self. So the main purpose of Atma Bodha teaching is to remove this fundamental disease of ignorance. And to gain Atma Jnana, I need to prepare myself as Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, the fourfold qualification, Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. And a Adhikari has all these fourfold qualifications. Thank you.
Hari Om, Namaste, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I'll be presenting second and the third verse. The message of both these verses is the same, Atma Jnanam. Knowing my true nature is the only means to liberation. Knowledge alone gives moksha. Shankaracharya says that knowledge of self is not one of the means to moksha, but it is the only means, which means that the mumukshu, the one seeking liberation, has no choice. The example given in this verse is of cooking. Next slide. We may require a vessel or some condiments, water for cooking, oil, stove, gas cylinder, but they are all secondary and indirect requirements. It is the heat or the fire principle which is essential, primary and direct for cooking. Buying of the LPG cylinder can be done in advance, so it is secondary and indirect. Water is proximate, direct, very required, essential, but it is secondary. It won't do the job of cooking. We may need all the other things, but without fire, cooking the rice grain is not possible. It is the key principle. In the same manner, without knowledge, we cannot get liberation. Jnanam is the only primary and direct sadhana as a means for moksha. It is irreplaceable. In comparison, all the other sadhanas are indirect and secondary, and they're supportive sadhanas. They help in preparing the mind to receive and digest the Atmanyanam. And this knowledge does not happen spontaneously. One has to go through a consistent and systematic study for a length of time under the guidance of a competent and live guru. Swami Paramantanandaji also specifies that this stands true in all yugas. We often hear in Kali Yuga, Nama Japa is enough. Yes, it's enough to prepare us for receiving this knowledge. In verse 3, Adi Shankaracharya points out, why do we insist on Vedantic study? The question arises that, is it not just an extreme belief? If knowledge alone is the means to self-realization, why do the scriptures prescribe so many sadhanas? Shastra and a guru speak so much about japa, pujas, vratas, pilgrimage, chanting, and many others. Should we not accommodate all these sadhanas? Adi Shankaracharya says, ignorance of any kind can be removed compulsory by relevant knowledge only. This is a universal law. For physics ignorance, I need to study physics. I need to get physics knowledge. I can't do puja or meditate for physics knowledge. In this verse, Shankaracharya puts all sadhanas other than jnanam under karma. That means karma yoga is japa, puja, karma. Upasana is also manasa karma. Karma yoga is essential. It is not wasteful and cannot be undermined, as they prepare us to receive the knowledge eventually. But these sadhanas cannot replace jnanam. Any amount of karma, secular or sacred, will not enlighten us. We may serve the society or perform Vedic rituals. These actions cannot remove self-ignorance. In verse 3, Adi Shankaracharya goes on to explain why karma cannot give moksha. It is because action cannot destroy ignorance. It is not in conflict with or opposed to ignorance. It does not neutralize ajnanam. In fact, next slide, karma is born out of ignorance. How? According to Vedanta, my original nature is aham purnatvam. And as Paripurna Aham, I am a karta. I cannot do anything, I need not do anything, and therefore I don't have karmas or desires. But because of self ignorance, unfortunately, my true nature is not known to me. And the Purna Aham is mistaken as Apurna Aham. I get a sense of incompleteness. I end up in desires. I want to complete myself either by taking pravritti or nivritti marga. Thus, ajnanam creates apurnatvam, a sense of finitude, and apurnatvam creates kama, a sense of desires, and kama creates karma, action. And thus we fall into the cycle of avidya, kama, karma, and into the cycle of samsara. The three only reinforce each other, but they don't negate each other. Karma cannot negate avidya. Thus, now comes the simple example in this verse. How many paths are required to remove darkness? One. Just as light alone can remove pitch darkness, knowledge alone can remove ignorance. It is not a multi-path road. To summarize, there is a hymn by Adi Shankaracharya known as Anatma Shri Vigarhana Stotram, in which he says, Dhatur loka sadito vatatakim, Vishnu loka vikshito vatatakim, Shambhur loka shasito vatatakim, which translates to you might have reached Brahma Loka, you might have peeped into Vishnu Loka, you might have ruled over Vishva Loka. Tathakim, so what? You may undertake as many Tirth-yatras, any intense austerities, but as long as you do not know yourself, all these global visits do not matter. You may cross the ocean by walking over the water. So what? You may get all kinds of siddhis. So what? In 19 shlokas, Adi Shankaracharya enumerates a number of such feats. And then he says, as long as you don't know yourself, these accomplishments do not matter. Only knowledge of self can lead to moksha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The fourth verse of Atma Bodha goes like this. Parichinna iva agnana tannashe sati kevalaha swayam prakashayate atma meghapaye amshuman iva. The meaning of this verse is, it is only because of ignorance that the self appears to be finite or limited. When ignorance is destroyed, the self, which does not admit of any multiplicity whatsoever, truly reveals itself by itself, like the sun when the cloud is removed. This is a very profound verse and an important verse. So here, parichinna means limited or finite. So it can be limitation in time, limitation in space, limitation in objects. So what is limitation in time? So limitation in time is, there was a time when I was born and a time when I'm going to die. This mortality, inevitable death, is limitation in time. Limitation in space. I am here and I am not anywhere else. Limitation in objects. This much is mine and the rest is not mine, and so on. So we see in our life, everything is limited. Health is limited, wealth is limited, name, fame, and even our enjoyments are limited. And this limitation is the cause of all our problems. It is the root cause of all our problems. We always feel I am incomplete and wants to become complete. From apurnatvam to purnatvam. This incompleteness or limitedness is samsara, and samsara is dukkha. And Swami Dayananda Saraswati describes samsara as life of becoming. So we see all problems are centered on I, and therefore the solution also must be centered on I. Iva. Iva means, it's an important word here. You have to know it is as if. It means as though. So it is not a fact. It is only a notion. So parichinna iva. So parichinna iva means the self appears as though limited. Agnanat. All of us are born with ignorance of our real nature, which is Sat, Chit and Ananda. Because of this ignorance, there is a sense of limitation. We do not realize that I am the only source of permanent happiness, peace, and security. Our scriptures and Advaita Vedanta says you are limitless, not limited. Because of ignorance, you appear to be limited. You are born, you're not born and you do not die. Of course, the bodies are born and they have death. And the minds are also continuously changing. But you are that limitless, unchanging witness of the mind. So, Tannashe, when this ignorance or the Ajnana is destroyed or removed, what happens? The knowledge arises that I am Brahman. You are that Satchidananda Rupa. Atma reveals itself by itself because it is self evident. So, the knowledge about the self removes the ignorance of the self. So, Gnanam alone removes Ajnanam. Sati Kevalaha. When ignorance is destroyed, and the knowledge arises, you realize you are that one non-dual reality or the Brahman. What is this Kevalaha? Kevalaha means I alone am. Other than me, there is no one else. I am that one consciousness principle shining through many bodies and minds. In Bhagavad Gita also we saw that it is that one Lord shining through all of us as if divided in all sentient beings. There are billions of bodies and minds, but behind all of them is that one consciousness principle, and you are that consciousness principle. Though it appears to be many, there is no second reality. It is not that I am limited now and I will become unlimited later. This limitlessness is always there, but only thing is, it is hidden. So here Shankaracharya explains this with a beautiful example. Megha paye amshuman iva. So Amshuman is the sun or the Surya, which is self-effulgent. It is Swayam Prakashaha. Suppose there is a cloud obstructing the sun. The sun appears dull and non-shining. Now, if a breeze or wind blows away the cloud, the sun appears shining again. There is actually no change in the brightness of the sun. It is always shining because it was covered by the cloud. It appeared dull and non-shining. When the wind blew away the cloud, the sun reveals itself as shining as always. It is Swayam Prakashaha. Like the sun, Atma is always Swayam Prakashaha. It reveals itself by itself. It is self-evident. So when the cloud of ignorance is removed by the wind of knowledge, the Atma reveals itself. So after gaining this self-knowledge that I am Brahman, what happens to this knowledge? That we will see in the next verse. Verse number 5. Agnana kalusham jivam gnanabhyasad vinirmalam krutva gnanam swayam nashyet jalam kataka renuvat. So the meaning of this verse is, through repeated practice, knowledge purifies the embodied soul stained by ignorance, and then itself disappears as the powder of the kataka nut disappears after it has cleansed the muddy water. So agnana kalusham jivam. Due to ignorance, that is agnanam, the jiva appears to be polluted. It appears to be impure. Nana abhyasadvi nirmala. So by constant nana abhyasa, this agnanam or ignorance can be removed. So what is this nana abhyasam? Nana abhyasam is Vedanta Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasanam. So once the knowledge arises that I am Brahman, it removes the ignorance that I am not Brahman. So it removes the ignorance that I am limited, I am body, mind, and so on. Of course, the body, mind, and the world exist, but you realize you are not that. They're all appearances in you, like a movie playing on the screen, movie screen. So as light dispels darkness, Gnanam alone dispels Agnanam. So what happens to this Gnanam that I am Brahman once you are enlightened? Krutva gnanam swayam nashyet. So once the gnanam is attained, the knowledge that I am Brahman also disappears. Here Shankaracharya explains this with an example of Kataka nut. So in olden days, Kataka nut was used to purify muddy water. So the Kataka nut may be compared to the present day alum. This nut powder is put in the pot with muddy water. This nut has a very peculiar quality. It absorbs all the dust particles and along with the nut powder settles down at the bottom of the vessel. The nut powder does not remain suspended in the water. So the clear water is on the top and all the dust particles along with the nut powder is at the bottom. So this clear water can be just transferred to another bowl. And the dust and the nut particles can be thrown away. Exactly like this, when the knowledge arises that I am Brahman, it removes the ignorance and the knowledge also disappears. So what remains is only Brahman, that reality which is non-dual. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
I wish to thank Dr. Netra for that important shloka which gives adhikaritvam. The one shloka in this text which covers almost the 12 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita before the commencement of Jnana Yoga portion. I wish to thank Neeta Madam. The simile there was just as fire is the direct means of cooking, Jnanam is the direct means of moksha. I wish to thank Vani Madam. Two similes there, just like the sun is always there and momentarily the cloud might cover it, the light of Atma is always there within us. Whatever the mind might cloud, we just have to make sure the clouds go away, the Atma will shine. And the interesting simile by Adi Shankaracharya that we need not keep telling Aham Brahmasmi. Once Swarupa Jnanam is recognized as the all-pervading eternal entity, it is always there with us. No need to remind ourselves again and again. Now we shall go to the next segment which deals with Tat Padartha Vichara. Over to you, Ananta Madam.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We're now dealing with verses 6 to 15, which deal with Adhyasa and Tat Pada Artham. We have heard about Jnana Yogyata Prapti through the practice of Karma Yoga. So we now move on to Jnana Prapti through Jnana Yoga. Why is this knowledge compulsory? It is the only way to is due to Ajnana and Adhyasa. Ajnana means self-ignorance and Adhyasa is the consequential false projections. So upon me, the Satchit Ananda self, I ignorantly superimpose time, space, and various limitations. The glory, or rather it should be the irony of ignorance, is depicted with the Swapna Drishtanta. The ignorance of the one Advaita Veka status, which is caused by sleep, results in three different things. First, projection of the dream world, which is called Dvaita Adhyasa. Then, the reality of the Veka is transferred to this dream world. And finally, the reactions of the unreal dream, like Raga Dvesha, become absolutely real to the dreamer. So in the dream, as macro projection, as Swapna Samashti Adhyasa, I become the Swapna Ishvara, the creator of the dream world. As micro projection, Swapna Shariram, I become the Swapna Jiva. So what is the remedy to this problem? Just wake up. Jagrat Avastha is not different. Here I have projected the false wakers, time, space, body, universe on my higher self, the Satchid Ananta Atma. I then mistakenly identified with this body, and from its standpoint, the false appears as real. The remedy here is spiritual awakening. How does ignorance cause samsara? Ignorance causes misrepresentation of facts. We have the example of rope and snake. The function of ignorance is transference of reality from rope to snake. Here again, we see the three stages. First is Mithya Adhyasa, projection of the unreal snake. Second, transference of reality from rope to the snake. And finally, the creation of physical and emotional responses like we see here. Fact being, Atma eva idagam sarvam. In the words of Yamadharmaraja, Neha nanasti kinchana. What is nanasti? Diversity or dvaita. Ignorance, we see, misrepresents Advaita Atma as the unreal Dvaita Prapancha, taking reality from Atma, transferring it to the Prapancha. How do we resolve these problems? Just wake up by shining the light of Vedanta Pramanam, Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya. Switch over the referral point to Brahman. As we see here in this picture, the world appears to be real only as long as non-dual Brahman, the substratum of all, is not realized. It's like seeing silver in an oyster shell. Tavat satyam jagat bhati shuktika rajatam yatha. We then have the example of macro adhyasa. Like bubbles in water, the worlds arise from, exist, and dissolve into the Supreme Lord, who's the material cause and supporter of everything. But just as the arrival and departure of these bubbles do not disturb the water in the ocean, budhani varini, upadhane akila adhare, jaganti parameshware. Who is this Parameshwara? I am the Parameshwara, the Satchit Atmani, and the whole cosmos is just a speck in me. I am the only real substance, and I, as Satchit Atmani, Anusyute, means I am inherent in everything. Example being Hatake Katakadivata. One gold pervades a multitude of ornaments. Nama Anekam Vastu Ekam. So, what is the Upadhi of Atma? The Vyakti, in the Vyakti Prapancha, all of our bodies are the Upadhi. Yathakasho, Hrishikesho, I, Hrishikesha, the Atma, am available in every Shariram. Before superimposition of this dualistic universe as macro and micro, I remain as non-dual Atma. Ignorance projects this dualistic world and makes me one of the many Jivatmas. This is what we call plurality. The example given is the Akasha Drishtanta. Just as indivisible space appears as spot space, room space, box space, etc., one Chaitanyam is within and outside everybody. Due to ignorance, I see individuality. Atma Bodha shifts my vision from I am Jivatma to I am Paramatma. Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Another example of micro adhyasa is Nirguna Atmani Aropita Jati Varna Ashrama Adhyasa. It is something like Toye Rasa Varnadi Bhedavat, as false as different tastes and colors superimposed in water. Finally, we have one more micro adhyasa explained through the three sharira, Stula, Sukshma, and Karara. Just as enclosures contribute to different sets of adhyasa, physical, psychological, and emotional, Nirguna Atma we see is falsely endowed with attributes of the unreal Sharira Traya. Pancha Koshadi Yogena means by the union, Tat Tanmaya Iva Stitaha. So, what do we do? Upadi Trayatad Anyam Atmanam Avadharayet. We should understand that I, the Atma, am different from the Sharira Traya. Wake up to the reality Aham Brahmasmi. Like a pure and clear crystal, a blue cloth kept in proximity of the crystal seems to impart its blue color to the crystal. Factually, it is unchanged. Similarly, Atma is Nirguna Nirakara. Therefore, all our problems are due to this one Atma Ajnana, which results in a multitude of Adhyasas. So, with the destruction of one Ajnana, all Adhyasas spontaneously drop like the domino effect. Thank you. I request Madam Indu to proceed with the subsequent verses.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
we have seen so far, this Jnanam requires preparation of Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, and Mumukshutva. Ajnanam is known by different names in Vedanta. Mula Vidya, Mula plus Avidya, and Maya. The Ajnanam has got two powers known as Vikshepa Shakti and Avarana Shakti. Vikshepa Shakti means creative power, which means to throw out, to expand. This is the result of its Rajoguna. We see in slide 1, ignorance of one's identity is Adhyasa. Ignorance causes Adhyasa, and Adhyasa causes Samsara, that is, duality of Raga and Dvesha, leading to the cycle of rebirth. Ajnana Nivritti is possible only through Jnana Prapti. In the second slide, we have rope snake illustration. Rope is not known as rope in partial darkness, and mistaking the rope for an unreal snake. Only a torch light can take away the fear and confusion of the rope snake. In slide 3, we see that dream is another illustration for Adhyasa. In sleep, ignorance of one's own identity, place, and time leads to projection of a dream which appears real. This is Adhyasa. The mind projects the inner world of dream objects, physical body, sense organs. This is Vyashti Adhyasa. The mind also projects the macro universe with mountains, rivers, galaxies, etc. This is Samashti Adhyasa. Identification with body-mind causes Adhyasa. Dream appears real as long as one is in dream. You don't see the dream as a thought disturbance in the mind. This causes duality and samsara. Due to identification with the dream body, the waker has become the dream individual, using the dream sense organs for perceiving the dream world. There is division of subject-object. This adhyasa ends when one wakes up from dream. The adhyasa ends when one wakes up from dream, and the only solution is, as we have seen earlier, self-knowledge. All our physical, emotional, and intellectual problems are caused due to false projections and superimpositions of attributes called upadis or anatma on the pure atma, which is our own nature. After creation of the world, the avarana shakti of Maya takes over and creates confusion between Atma and Anatma, superimposing the Anatma over Atma. The confusion leads to duality, that is samsara. So what we need to deal with is the avarana shakti. The goal of spiritual sadhana is to overcome the avarana shakti of Maya through self-knowledge. In slide 4, we see that with self-knowledge, one realizes that all attributes superimposed on the non-dual Atma are impermanent. Their arrival or departure does not affect the Nirvikara Atma. Gnani claims he is Sat Chit Atma. Atma Bodha is the only solution to drive away ignorance. Atma Bodha imparts knowledge of Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara to arrive at our true nature. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om. Ignorance of our higher nature is Adhyasa, as already explained. This leads to samsara, duality in world. It's also an obstacle in human pursuit for liberation. Study of Atma Bodha leads to shift in vision from I am a helpless Jivatma to I am the Paramatma, substratum of the universe. These verses 8, 9, 10, and 11 help us understand the nature of the world as an appearance.
The Upanishad Vakya, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mityam, is not that easy to assimilate because whatever we experience is never there and what we never experience is ever there. Vedanta says Atma experience is not a proof of reality. So, study of Atma Bodha. Next slide, sir. Adhyasa is an error, false imposition of attributes on the pure Atma. This is two types, micro and macro. Micro Adhyasa is projection of physical body, mind and sense organs in dream. In dream, one forgets one's own identity. This is the creative power of Maya. Dream is only a thought disturbance in the mind. Dream events appear real so long as they are experienced. Swakale Satyavat Bhati. Next is macro Adhyasa, projection of a dream world for transactions in dream. This is concealment power of Maya. Next slide, sir. Ignorance by itself is not a problem, but projecting an unreal thing and attributing reality to the unreal is the problem. This is Adhyaropa Apavada, illustrated by rope snake and a shining seashell, Shuktika Rajatavat, which causes Dvesha and Raga respectively. The same is applicable in Atma Gnana. I, the Paramatma, is mistaken as Jivatma due to wrong identification with the body-mind. Next slide, sir. Vedanta uses the method of Adhyaropa Apavada, that is, deliberate introduction of attributes and subsequent negation. Initially, Adhyaropa method is used to understand creation of the universe, and later Apavata, Neti, is used to realize the Mithyatvam of the universe. This is illustrated with a building under construction which is supported by scaffolding, subsequently removed. Brahman alone is the reality. Nehana nasti kinchana. Next slide, sir. The unreal dream produces seemingly real results. The world also gives a sense of reality in the state of ignorance. When one wakes up from dream, the dream world disappears. But when one wakes up to self-knowledge, the world continues, but it appears as only names and forms. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam, just as a movie on the screen. From the waker's standpoint, world is mithya. The magnitude of the universe, the solar system, the stars, the planets are all compared to bubbles from the standpoint of infinity. Here are some more key words to highlight world is an appearance. Prakalpita. Both Swapna Prapancha and Jagrat Prapancha are projections of my mind. Just as various ornaments are different forms of gold, all Jiva Rashis are but names and forms superimposed on Brahman. Anusyute. Brahman is inherent in and through all beings. I, the consciousness, waker, lend existence to this world. Akhiladhare. I am the very substratum of the universe, including time and space. Parameshware. Just as Ishvara is the Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Karana of the universe, I, the waker, am the controller of the dream that arises in me, exists in me, and resolves into me. Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, Mai Sarvam Pratishtitam. Then next, Nano Upadigato Vibho, space. It's all pervading and it's one. But with various upadis, it appears seemingly divided. There is nothing like room space, hall space, pot space, etc. It's one total space. When the walls are dismantled, pots are broken, what remains is one total space. Tannashe kevalo bhave. Brahman is beyond limitations of time and space. I am the space-like consciousness in which enclosures arise and fall. But I am the changeless Paramatma. This is the vision. Finally, through the study of Atma Bodha, there is a shift in vision from Anatma to Atma, appearance to absolute reality. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mityam becomes a conviction. In the words of Swami Chinmayananda, where there is ignorance of identity, there arises confusion of duty. Hari Om.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Continuing the context, the next verses 12, 13, and 14, they summarize the upadis beautifully as the gross, subtle, and causal upadis. Next slide, please. So in verse 12, the gross body is discussed. We know it is made up of the 5 gross elements: space, air, water, fire, and earth. And these serve as a tenement for the jiva to reside. And the duration of this uh, 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 residing is variable, and it depends on the prarabdha karma. So the example that is given, as for most of the other verses, is of a tenement or a counter for transactions. And this is the most appropriate simile to describe the function of the gross human body. There are senses that bring in information from the outer world, and there are other senses that take our responses out to the world. The good deeds that are performed, they earn merit or punya, and this it serves the purpose of the human birth. We also do impure actions, and they cause a loss or demerit, papa, and this contributes to the kind of birth that we have when we are reborn. It is a loss relative to the spiritual goal, though it may be profitable materially. Important to remember that the human body is the only birth in which papa and punya can be earned. In other births, whether they're plants, animals, etc., the existing storehouse of the karma is worked out, but there's no opportunity for earning any merits. The next slide deals with verse 13, which deals with the subtle body. And here, the simile used is that of an instrument. For example, a pen, when we want to write, we pick up the pen, write, and then cap it and keep it away. So the subtle body is made up of 19 parts, which we know: the 5 organs of knowledge, the jnanendriya, the 5 organs of action, karmendriya, the pancha prana, and the mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, the 4 internal organs. So these 19, they make up the subtle body, and each of them can be thought of as an instrument. Each one has a specific function. And why is it need for us to look at it this way? Because if we see them as instruments, it prevents a building up of attachment of the self towards either the functions performed or that upon which the function itself is performed. Now, the subtle body has a longer duration than the gross body. It continues in future births. During pralaya, it resolves into the karana sharira. Next slide, please. Next slide. So by knowing that they're only instruments, that again, just emphasizing that, especially the mind, intellect, and the memory of past experiences would not be misunderstood and get caught up with various emotions. And we can restrict the use of these parts of the subtle body to what they have to do in the present. And this is taught as the ideal condition of usage of the subtle body. But we know in real life, this is actually rarely the case. And we find that life is very complex and stressful because we get attached to objects and desires when we, refuse to see them as only instruments, and we live all the time in our thoughts and emotions. Next slide, please. The next verse, verse 14, deals with the causal body, which is the Karana Sharira. It is beginningless. It is an unmanifest or potential or seed form. It is not available for perception because it's made up of one ultimate causal matter, Prakriti, which is capable of becoming the cosmos. It is the repository, the Stula and Sukshma Sharirams in potential form during dissolution. This is one of the few verses without a simile. Now, the important thing is ignorance is the form of the causal body. And because we do not know the cause of this ignorance, it is both causeless and beginningless. Adi Shankaracharya elaborated on the details of this lineage, Anartha Parampara, or inauspicious lineage, which we see in the next slide. So everything starts with ignorance, and the first effect of that is desire. And because of various desires, we enter into samsara, which leads us to perform actions, reap the punya and the papa, accumulate karma, then enter into the next cycle of birth and death, again reap joy and sorrow, and there is endless transmigration. So this lineage from step 1 to step 9, it's a vicious cycle spoken of in the scriptures, and from which the scriptures and the rishis have been trying their utmost to save us. Next slide. So the final outcome of these 3 verses was to teach us what the self is not. The self is not the gross, subtle, or the causal body. So now we go back to the discussion of what it is. And this is in verse 15 in the next slide. So this is the famous crystal and blue cloth example, where the precise distinction between the self and the sheets is explained using the Nila Vastra Adi Yogena simile. And this is appropriate because a crystal is very clear and colorless and perfectly reflects the color of the light rays that fall upon it. But if the cloth on which it is placed is colored, then the crystal will appear to be the same color as the cloth. So in this example, a blue cloth, so the crystal looks blue. Next slide, please. So just as the crystal itself does not become blue, it just appears blue, so also the self, the Atma, which is pure and clear, it is not affected by the qualities that we erroneously superimpose upon it because of the sheets that we have. But because of the close association of the self and the sheets, their qualities appear to get transferred onto the self, and we can't see the self. So these are examples. So the gross body can be tall or short, fat or thin. So that gets imposed on the Atma. And from the subtle sheet, for example, the language is spoken, the wealth one might have, the religion one might practice. So all these are just superimposed on the Atma only due to ignorance that there's only one self. And the solution to this problem of wrong identification is given in the next verse, which will be seen in the next class. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much to all the speakers. The basic problem in Atma Bodha is Atma ignorance. When I don't know my true nature, I project a false nature, very well described by all speakers. At the conclusion of all these sessions, I will request a teaching quiz to be conducted by Dr. Anupama, and I will request Dr. Rekha to answer these questions. Dr. Anupama, please explain the questions so that it will help us to answer. Dr. Anupama, please.
Thank you, sir. Ajnana in Vedanta is not called. There is a negative here. So the words which are not synonyms of Ajnana should be picked up from this. Is it Mula Avidya? Is it Maya? Is it Anvritam, means untrue? Is it Adhyasa or is it Prakriti?
It appears to be number 4, Adhyasa.
That's right. Because Adhyasa is not Ajnana. It is one of the consequences of Ajnana. All the other words are Ajnana. Shall we proceed? Which of these is, notice again, not. Which of these is not the cause of Anyonya Adhyasa? Anyonya Adhyasa is what all of us have spoken about, the transference of attributes of objects onto Atma, or transference of attributes of one object onto another object. So, Atma Anyonya Adhyasa, is it the cause? What is not the cause? Is it Aviveka, Tattva Jnana, Maya, Mula Avidya, means the Avarana Shakti of Maya, or Tula Vidya, means the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya? Which of these is not the cause of Anyonya Adhyasa?
Is it Tattva Jnana?
That's Atma Jnana. Okay. When there is Jnana, there is no Adhyasa. Next one. Aham Satya Jagat Mithya Nischaya Jnanam means which of these no longer exists? Is it Maya? Is it Avarana Shakti of Maya? Is it Vikshepa Shakti of Maya? Is it Raga, Dvesha and the negative emotions? Or is it the Dvaita Prapancha? Which of these goes away when we have Nischaya Jnanam of Aham Satya Jagat Mithya?
It's number 2, Avarana Shakti.
Absolutely right. Because Atma Jnana removes only Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti remains. That's why the world continues to exist, but we know it is Mithya, Anatma. So what is Mithya? Is it something non-existent? Is it something existent? Something that appears to be real? Something that supports existence? or something that is the cause of creation, Srishti Sthiti Laya Karana of Prapancha.
It is something that appears to be real.
Yes. That's why it is called Sadasat Vilakshana. It is neither Sat nor Asat. It is Anirvachaniyam. It is inexplicable. It has no beginning. It has no end. Okay, next one, please. Karanam karyeshu anusyutataya vartate means Karanam means cause. Karya means effect. Karyanam karyeshu means the cause exists or pervades or is inherent in every effect. That means whatever object we see, in it is inherent its cause. This means, taking the rope snake example, the rope snake exists independently of the rope, or the rope will be there wherever the snake is, or knowledge of rope snake destroys rope.
But number 2, the rope will be there wherever the rope snake is.
Yes, because the rope is the adhishtanam of the snake, and adhishtanam is inherent in the adhyasa. That is why Bhagavan is called Antaryami. Adhishtanam is the satta of the adhyasa. Even though we say snake and the snake is not there, we say the snake is, and that isness of the snake is the karanam anusyute, the rope. Okay. Now, the word upadhi has 3 aspects. You have to choose the right word. It should be, is it far, near, real, or visible? Take the hint, upa.
Near.
That's right, like Upanishads. Second, the upadhi should transfer existence, experience, attributes, or reality. Think of the cloth and crystal.
Attributes.
And this transference should be real, false, permanent, temporary. Again, cloth and crystal.
False. False.
So what is the difference between avidya and mula avidya? Is there no difference? Or is it ignorance with respect to para and apara vidya? Is it ignorance with respect to Brahman and Ishvara? Or is it satya, mithya, ajnanam and karana sharira?
So avidya is satya, mithya, ajnanam.
That's right. And what is mula avidya? It's another name for karana sharira. So mula avidya is the sthula sukshma sharira in bija avastha, which is the karana sharira. Whereas avidya is ignorance with respect to satya mithya, which is caused by avarana shakti of maya. And that's the last. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hegde sir, Dr. Sundar sir, Dr. Anupama madam, and all speakers of the day for a wonderful revision session. We'll come back to you with next 2 topics with the corresponding set of verses next week. Thank you all viewers for your unstinted support and feedback, which keeps us on our toes to maintain the quality of the content and delivery of our sessions. Coming Monday on 7th April 2025, let's tune in for session 73 of GIFT at 6:45 p.m. to study verses 11 to 15 of 13th chapter. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vachishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.